Welcome to Women Who Brand, a podcast that spotlights inspiring women in the creative industry. I'm Alejandra Salazar, founder and CEO of CROING, which is part of the 0.1% of creative agencies founded by a woman, and I will be your host today. This podcast is part of an initiative of CROING to inspire women in the industry by sharing the journeys and insights of those who are leading the way. Women Who Brand are creative, strategic, and visionary forces in the world of marketing, making an impact in both their role and the industry as a whole. They shape how people perceive, interact with, and remember the brand. In this episode, we talk with Marissa Solis, the Senior Vice President, Global Brand and Consumer Marketing at the NFL. This episode is a must for marketing leaders, marketers looking to tap into or improve their brands in sports, and honestly, every marketer in the industry, because what Marissa shares here is pure gold. And I won't say much more because you have to listen to this one. So welcome our next woman who brand, Marissa Solis. Hi, Marissa.
How are you, Alejandra?
I'm so good. What about you, my love?
I'm great. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Marissa, for those who don't know, is the Senior Vice President, Global Brand and Consumer Marketing at the National Football League, the NFL. Yes. This is the type of guest I'm bringing you here. Marissa and I met a few weeks ago at a dinner organized by A La Latina, hosted by Claudia Romo Edelman and Cynthia Kleinbaum. That night, Marissa shared part of her professional journey, which began at PepsiCo, or better say, she shared the series of serendipities that have been shaping her life. We crossed paths again last week at an event organized by the American Marketing Association, where Marissa gave an excellent talk on inclusive leadership. I heard you saying, champion those you disagree with, understand and elevate their perspective, just as you do with the ones you agree with. And honestly, that was like, I need her in my podcast. I needed you here. It's really my pleasure to have you. I deeply admire your journey and I don't want to spoil more. I just want to go and ask you the questions. So let's get started, okay?
That's great. Thank you, Alejandra.
Of course. Marissa, in one of our first conversations, you mentioned that you wanted to be a diplomat. So tell me, what made you decide to leave that path and pursue a career in marketing instead? And how do you feel about your current role?
You know, I was never meant to be a marketer. I never studied it, never thought that that was the path for me. I wanted to be an ambassador. You know, I am an immigrant from Mexico City. I came to this country at the age of 10, and I grew up in the border in South Texas. And when you grow up amidst the, immigration crisis and you see it every day, it just really inspired me to go become this ambassador. I wanted to bring people together and cultures together. And so I thought that was my path. And after studying it, because I went to Georgetown University, I studied to be an ambassador. 2 weeks before graduation, my dean said to me, if you really, really want to be an ambassador and change the world one day, he said, you need to go into corporate America, make a name for yourself. Maybe one day, once you have that name, you can donate to a campaign and then they'll appoint you ambassador. And, he said, make a name for yourself first so that then you can come back and influence. And so I followed his advice. I ended up through serendipity at Procter & Gamble in San Juan, Puerto Rico in Latin America. And that was my first marketing job. And, like I said, I didn't know anything about branding, marketing. The P&G is one of the best marketing companies in the world. And so it was a great place to build a marketing foundation and to really learn. I learned on the job.
Wow, it's inspiring. I love because sometimes when you connect the dots at the end and you see now your journey, and sometimes when we are in the university or we want to achieve something specific, but life leads you to different paths.
Yes.
But you can also...
Life is a series of twists and turns.
I know.
And a lot of choices. And, it's an adventure. You just kind of have to take it and live it. And it'll take you eventually, I think, where you're meant to be.
I couldn't agree more. I just mentioned the champion those you disagree with. And the reason that I felt it so personal is because I always try to surround myself, like at the agency, for example, around people that I consider more talented than myself. That led me to achieving, 8 million organic views on TikTok for Sony Electronic. Or we were a social media agency and we pivoted into a creative agency because my team had a different, like 100% different point of view than the one I have. So I really saw and I always look for that, but I never heard someone saying the way you say so directly, champion those you disagree with. So please tell me, how did you come to that conclusion and what has been the reward of doing so for you?
I think when you surround yourself with diverse points of view, diverse approaches, you learn so much, right? And I first kind of realized it, as a young marketer, the way you advance your career, you got to put yourself in the center of things, right? You got to be noticed. And one of the early things that I did was I would find out who the most influential person was in my company, to the work that I was doing, and I would make it my mission to champion that person's agenda, right? Because if they saw that I could solve problems for them or be a spokesperson for them, they would notice me. And that's kind of how I rose in my career. And when I started to do that, I wouldn't even say many, all of the people that I would champion or try to solve their problem, all of these key influential people, were not Latino.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of them were women. The majority were white male. But I learned so very much by listening to their point of view, listening to their approach, really understanding the heart of their agenda. Like, why did they want to do something? What was their motivation? And at the end of the day, a lot of times the motivations, we were coming from the same place. We wanted to achieve the same place or the same things,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe their approach was a little bit different, or they brought in beliefs that I hadn't grown up with, or just different things. And I think listening to them, understanding their approach just made me a much more open to considering other things that I otherwise would not have. And I think over time, I learned to really treasure those points of views. Now, you have to create your own point of view. And obviously, you have your own values and your own set of beliefs. But I think if you understand all the other ones, it strengthens your own. And it also allows you to work together with people you disagree with to get to a common place, right? You're not going to agree on everything, but you can get to a common place and together move forward. It's really been something that has helped me along the way. And quite frankly, I think it's a skill set that an ambassador has to have.
And let's not forget the final goal here.
Yes, so it's something that served me well.
No, and I see it because at the end of the day, that's also what makes progress in society rich, right? Like how different we are. So if we are not capable to championing others that think different or that are different, then what are we expecting from life in general, So when you say it, I was like, dude, this is so on point. So thank you for explaining further. Let's move now to more of the ideation process because, you're in marketing. I know you are constantly in the pulse of culture. So how do you know if an idea or an initiative is good? Do you have a specific process or is more of a feeling?
There's no process per se. There's a couple of things. I think first and foremost, it is definitely a feeling because any powerful marketing idea has to make people feel. You cannot persuade someone or engage someone if they don't feel something. So you absolutely have to feel. And anytime I hear a pitch or see ideas, I try to get very, very quiet in my mind so that all I can sense is the feeling. And if I get that feeling, then there's something there, right? And that's the beginning. Now, obviously, once you kind of get through that, there's other tests or criteria that I look at. It does have to connect with your brand. It has to connect with our fan base, our consumer, the things that I know will motivate them. And ultimately, it does have to drive an action, right? Whether it's a purchase, a conversion, consideration, something. So there are certain kind of more business questions that do come into play, but that's later. I think the initial one is always a feeling, at least for me, because if not, it can accomplish the persuasion, but without the feeling, then it's just a transaction. It's not a true, connection.
I love that. You are now in such an important career. How have you made your voice and creative ideas heard? Do you remember a moment where you were like, no, I need to speak, I need to say it, or it was just part of that experience you share about important people's agenda, or you had a moment where you needed to like, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z in order for my ideas or my vision to be portrayed here?
I think It comes with time, right? You have to learn to train your inner voice and your inner confidence to train it to then, be able to speak up, be in the center, particularly when you're surrounded by the decision makers, right? Or the people that are influencing what happens. And for me, I think latching on to those big influential people very early in my career and watching them and learning their motivations and their agenda helped me to figure out how to build the case, right? So if I had a creative idea, if I had an idea, I knew how to approach each particular person. Okay, this person cares about data, right? They're very data driven. So I'm going to leverage the data to convince this person that this is the right idea. Another person may not be as data driven. They're very emotional and they care about XYZ. Okay, I'm going to tap into that emotion and persuasion to influence them. So over time you learn, but you have to be a real student of those that you're working with, and you have to really listen. It's a skill that you have to develop. So often in the marketing world, there's a lot of egos, right? And people just want to be heard. Somebody's talking to you, and before they're even done, you're already thinking about what you're going to say or how you're going to answer. And you miss out when you do that. You're missing out on what they're telling you, and you're missing out on then all that important information that you have to take in to then know how to truly respond and persuade and influence. So I think it was just over time, I trained myself to really listen, really understand, and then craft the story in a way that would really very personally touch that person or convince that person.
Love it. Such a good advice, Marissa. I remember you mentioning that at least for NFL, the real currency is relevance. What trend in marketing excites you right now?
I don't know if I would call it a trend. I mean, I think when you're truly in marketing, you try to learn to go past trends because trends are here for a short amount of time and then they go away. So you try to stick to the tried and true. Like there's a saying or a thing that we connect with, and that is the timeless. You have to always talk about and showcase the timelessness of things. And then there's the timely, right? You have to do it in a timely way that of today's world brings it to life. But like trends, I don't know. For example, actually talk about AI because I don't think it's a trend. It's something everyone's talking about. So it is trendy because, but I don't think it's a trend. I think technology is evolving like it always has, and it's headed to a way where we're going to be able to, we already are able to do very personalized ways of communicating, right? Because now we have the data at our fingertips to know everything about you. And now we have the technology to be able to shape images and messages and to fit you. And that to me isn't a trend. That is a evolution of technology that we got to learn to master and to maximize. So if people call AI a trend, maybe AI. But,
maybe that will be,
but I don't think it's a trend.
No, it's a revolution.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. Now imagine that you are a brand or an NFL team. What would your slogan and brand colors be?
I don't know colors. I love purple. So maybe it is a purple. Okay. Slogan for sure is about shining the spotlight on people. Like my whole mission is about seeing those that haven't been seen, haven't been heard, and shining that spotlight so that they are seen and heard. I think everybody deserves their moment in the spotlight. I think the world can learn a lot from each of our experiences and stories. That's my kind of motto, is like, I want to go shine that light so that, we can educate. And ultimately, I said my kind of big desire was to bring cultures together and connect dots. And I think by shining the light on people, you bring cultures together and you connect different dots that didn't exist before. And that's probably my shine the light, shine the spotlight, something like that. I
love it. Now we move to the second part of the podcast, which is more specific topics or questions, and I have two angles that I want to cover here. One is NFL flag and the other one is NFL going international, but from your point of view.
Perfect.
So, first, NFL flag. Considering how many sports organizations are now looking to better connect with female audiences, what role do you think NFL flag can play in making football more accessible to women and girls? And from a marketing standpoint, what's needed for it to grow in visibility and get closer to the level of fame that NFL has today?
That is a fantastic question. First of all, why flag? It is such a, you said it, it is such an accessible sport. Anybody can play play it, any level, any gender. And it's also not expensive to play it. I mean, all you need is a ball and, a belt, and then you can get out in any field and play it and learn the skills and learn the sport. So it is accessible. We know we have the data that says the way to creating a fan is really participation. If you play the game, you're 10 times more likely to be a fan of that sport. And for us to build and engage with young women and women everywhere, participation is key, and have them be part of the game is key. So that's a big piece of it. The other piece, quite frankly, is giving women access to scholarships, to development, to being able to play professionally. And so that is, I think, a huge goal of the league, is to develop flag into, first and foremost, an official high school sport where girls can play at the high school level.
Of course.
NCAA sport, so that then you can have a pathway to getting a scholarship and playing. And then finally, a professional league where they can play and develop themselves. And even if they don't make it to a professional league, like many young athletes, they can still take the benefits of the sport,
of course,
and go very far, right? So that's kind of the goal and the dream and the vision. How we make it happen through marketing, awareness is key, which is why as the league, we're using our biggest platform. So the Super Bowl, right? 2 years ago when we told the Diana story, this past year at Super Bowl, we told Kilolo's story. We're going to be leveraging the Super Bowl for that high
love that
visibility and awareness. We have a lot of famous flag ambassadors all over the world that are now speaking the sport to raise awareness. And I think now that we're an Olympic sport, and when you see flag in LA 28, that's going to be huge in terms of raising awareness and legitimizing the sport. But it's also just building, it's awareness, it's engagement, building that fandom, right? Telling all those stories so people can get excited and either participate or somehow be involved. You can either play the game, you can be involved in supporting the local leagues, you can be involved in the fight to legalize these and sanction them in schools. Like, there's so many ways, or you can just be a fan, right?
Exactly.
Which is great. So
and
those are all the ways we're trying to, elevate the sport and put it out there and make sure it grows.
I couldn't agree more on the awareness part, because to me, for example, and I know it's not just my story, but a lot of us we grew watching male sports in all the sports, like the goals and the moments, and it's just so exciting. And I remember 2 years ago, we as an agency, we started to pay more and more attention to women in sports as an audience, and also teams. I spoke at a conference in the Inter Miami Stadium, and a lot of female soccer players were there. Messi was supposed to be there as well, so I was like, Messi's coming, dying. And then these athletes were there, and I honestly didn't know their name. They start speaking, and before she spoke, they put a video, her top 10 goals. And I saw the video, it was like less than a minute. I saw the video, and the moment the video ends, I'm like, I love her.
Yeah.
But I was never exposed to see that clip. The moment I saw it, that second, I fell in love with her forever. And she signed me a soccer ball, and I became obsessed. And I also went to the Brooklyn Nets game last year, and same, like I saw them, and then like I saw the fashion, and I'm like, I'm obsessed.
It's unbelievable when you see the athletic ability that these women and young girls have. It's crazy. And it's exciting and it's invigorating. They exhibit so much confidence and they bring swagger to the game. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. We just have to expose that.
100%.
Girls all over the world see it, because once they see it, they know they can become it. And that confidence that it's driven. I mean, it's an amazing thing. You see what Serena did to tennis, and Caitlin Clark, and all of these incredible young female athletes, and how they've elevated. I mean, in soccer, my God, there's thousands, from Mia Hamm way back when to Carly Lloyd. And I mean, I can name many of them. So I think it's really, really important to shine a light on the sport, showcase these incredible athletes, and then also give them the pathway to, get a higher education.
Of course.
Potentially play in a professional league, like all those things. We're on a journey. It's an exciting journey. It's just going to get bigger and better. So I'm
I know, and I'm honestly genuinely excited to see women like you in a place where you are because you said it. Last year we spotted like in the Super Bowl. Like every brand wants to be there. Like that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest one, moment where everyone is watching, right? So
Yep.
showcasing there is like the impact you are making in little girls, and it's just mind blowing. So again, I'm kind of a fun moment now, but honestly, when I hear you and see you in the role you are, it's just so important to girls and culture to have people like you leading the path. So I'm happy about it.
Thank you. It is a privilege, and it's also, I think, an obligation that
And is you being an ambassador?
for
Like
sure, for sure.
100%. So, okay, let's move to the second part, which is internationalization. I live in 7 countries so far, and that has given me a deep understanding of how people adapt to different cultures, how they adopt technology, and how they connect with sports, which is super different. I live in Germany, Mexico, Chile, Spain, so it's 100% different. And to me, I feel that gave me that sensibility to take the time and listen, as you said, because it's the only way to survive. Like, listen, not trying to impose. I'm from Venezuela, so we need to do things my way. No, you need to listen first. Now that NFL is going global, can you share some of your initiatives to expand internationally, and which countries are you targeting first, or what are the strategies that you can share to make sure that you land properly in those markets, considering that each country is different? I want to know more about the vision in general.
And look, the broadest and the highest of levels, the vision is we want to be a global platform and we want to be a global powerhouse, right? And what that means to us from a very measurable perspective is we want to be in the top 3 sport in every country. That's the vision. I think if you're a marketer and you understand the challenge that we have, because in the US, we are arguably the most powerful sports league in the US. There is no one that comes close in terms of viewership and fan base and all the things, right? That changes the minute you leave the US. We are no longer the leader, we are a challenger brand. And so, as a challenger brand, the approach is very, very different. And so, that we are very cognizant of that, right? Clearly the strategy is first go where there's a fan base already established that we can grow and nurture. And so, if you look at around the world, kind of our big focus markets, obviously LATAM, when you see Mexico, right? Biggest market in terms of fandom outside of the US, it's 34 million fans and growing. We've played games in Mexico. Clubs have come to Mexico. And so there's equity there, whether it's the Cowboys or the Steelers, like there's equity for those teams.
Yeah.
So there's already a foundation there to grow the sport and the game, and fútbol americano is a thing, right?
Claro.
You keep expanding that to now Brazil, where again, 39 million fans. There's a fan base. We just had our first game in Brazil last year, which was incredible. We're going to continue that. And so there's another game in Sao Paulo this coming year.
Love it.
So that's how we've been expanding. If you look at Europe, we've been present in the UK for years. I don't even know how far back, 30 years. And so we've been playing games in the UK. There's a fan base in the UK. And so the UK is obviously another kind of big focus country because there's a solid fan base that we're trying to continue to build, right? Germany is another one where we've been present. There's a fan base. We're growing. And so those 4, I think, are pretty solid. Canada has a fan base. And while we don't play a game there, there's a big fan base, right? There's kind of solid countries where we're now playing games. We're doing activation year round. We have media deals with local broadcasters that are bringing the game to life, influencers, like all of the way and you can reach a market. And then we have other markets, Australia is a big market that we're going after because we have players from Australia that are playing in the league.
That's key.
There's a connection there, right? When you have a personal player. And then Africa has always been a very strategic place for us, for fandom, and then also from an academy perspective. So developing, young players, giving them the opportunity to play in the NFL and the big leagues. And so there's academies in Africa, in the UK, in Mexico. So there's player development, there's fan development, there's the game. Flag football plays a big piece because it's also, international. So big strategy. I think a very ambitious vision, but we're very excited. It's, it's going to take patience and kind of years to build it, but I have absolutely no doubt that it's something that, we'll be able to accomplish, and it'll be great.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love when you mention football americano, because when you were saying, I'm like thinking on a campaign, and definitely, at least in Latin America, when you say football americano, you can easily say, this is not US America, this is for everyone in America as well. So I feel there is like a easy connection for everyone in Latin America to feel, to own the game because of the name itself. So I see that happening, and I agree with you, especially on the countries where there is a fan of sports, then it's easy to, like, not easy, but
for sure. You have to tap in. I love the Brazil campaign is really, really interesting because the tagline it is American football, but it's cada vez más nostro. So every time it's more and more ours. So it's recognizing that, it's not football, which you've grown up with and is part of life in Brazil everywhere you go. It is American football, but every time you experience it and every time it becomes more a part of who you are. And so I think there's different ways in, and obviously every country's different. The fan bases are different, but the sport of football, the excitement, the unpredictability of it, the epic possibilities, all of that is the same. And then it's a little bit of what I was saying, the timelessness of American football, which is all that I just mentioned, the epicness, we are a unifier, we bring people together. You have to combine it with the timely, right? What's happening in the UK today? What's going to happen in Madrid when we go for our first game this coming fall? Like, how do you bring it to life in the context of today, but obviously honoring the legacy and all the things? So
love it.
It's going to be exciting.
Love it. I'm excited to see it. Now, that was the part of the two important aspects that I wanted to touch with you. And now I want to be, of course, mindful with your time. So we have a quick fire round, two more questions, and that's it. Are you ready for the quick fire?
Perfect. I love it.
So I'll ask you a few questions and you say whatever comes to your mind. So let's go. Commercial spot or social media?
Oh, I mean, depending on who you want to reach, but social media is key to personalizing.
Okay. Who shapes the culture of the league? Players or fans?
Both.
Love it. Communication in English, Spanish, or both?
Both. And when you combine it, even better.
Love it. Spanglish. Love it.
Yeah.
NFL or NFL flag?
NFL flag is NFL. So they're
both. That's true. That's true. Yeah, you're right. Super Bowl ad or the halftime show?
Ooh, that's a good one. Again, it depends what you are asking. If I'm a brand, Super Bowl ad.
Love it. Love it. Marissa, thank you so much. To close this episode, I will ask you two more questions. One, what does it mean to you to be a woman who brands? And what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry?
Gosh, what it means to be a woman who brands. It's a tremendous responsibility. It's not just a fun, like, sizzle, let's create something cool. It's a responsibility to connect, right? Connect products and services to people, develop these stronger ties to make people's lives better. So, to me, it's a great privilege and responsibility. What I would say to young creatives out there, it doesn't matter what the technology is. It doesn't matter what the business is. At the end of the day, you have to connect at a human level. Like, the power of human-centric storytelling is timeless. Like, that's not going away. It has to remain even stronger now when you're surrounded by technology. And so I would just say, stick to your instincts. Like, the deep instincts as a creative are really important. It's easy to overlook them when you're, bombarded by numbers and metrics and all the things that matter and are important. But you got to have that instinct to truly storytell and connect. And that's what will make you a powerful, creative.
Love it. Thank you, Marissa. This was super insightful, super nice. I feel people will love it. I'm sure about it. It was my pleasure to have you as a guest. I hope we continue to cross our path. I'm sure we will. And to all women who brand, listening or reading, remember, your voice matters and your creativity has the power to inspire and lead. So until next time.
Thank you, Alejandra. That was amazing.